My name is Isabella, and I'm 32 years old. I currently serve as the Chief Financial Officer at a major corporation. I married Michael 5 years ago, and for a while, our life together felt perfect, like something out of a dream. That illusion began to unravel after my grandfather passed away and left me a substantial inheritance. He wasn't just a grandfather to me, he was my mentor and role model. While my parents were busy running a modest family restaurant, it was my grandfather who taught me the real value of money. He shared lessons on investing, budgeting, education, and building a meaningful future. He often told me, money is a means, not the mission. Use it to create something worthwhile. Inspired by his wisdom, I pursued a finance degree, secured a position at a top firm, and eventually became the youngest CFO in the company's history. My grandfather was incredibly proud. When he passed 3 months ago, he left behind a fortune, 2 apartment buildings in the heart of the city, a diverse investment portfolio, and nearly $5 million in liquid assets. At first, only Michael knew about the inheritance. We agreed to keep it private until we figured out how to handle it. That discretion didn't last long. Everything came crashing down during a family dinner at my in-laws' house just a few weeks ago. Michael and I were there with his 3 sisters, Melissa, Madison, and Melanie, their husbands, and his parents, Matthew and Miranda. The evening was going smoothly until Melanie, the obvious family favorite, suddenly broke down in tears. "What's going on, sweetheart?" Miranda rushed to her side. "The bank turned down our mortgage application," Melanie sobbed theatrically. "Gregory and I have been saving forever, but prices are just impossible right now." Miranda embraced her dramatically, then shot me a glare that felt like a slap. "She's never warmed to me, always treated me like an outsider." "Don't worry, we'll figure something out," she said soothingly, just before Gregory blurted, "Didn't Isabella inherit a ton of money from her grandfather?" The room froze. All eyes turned to me. Michael sat rigid, visibly tense. "Is that true?" Miranda's voice was suddenly sharp, her warmth evaporating. Before I could answer, Michael cut in. "Mom, that's private." "Private?" Miranda repeated coldly. "There are no secrets in this family." I stayed composed. "Yes, my grandfather did leave me an inheritance." "How much?" Melanie asked, her voice trembling, though her eyes stayed dry. "I don't think that's relevant," I said, still calm. Miranda stood up, clearly outraged. "It is relevant. Melanie and Gregory are trying to buy a home, and you're just sitting on millions." "That's not fair, Mom," Melissa interjected. "Quiet, Melissa," Miranda snapped, silencing her with a single glare. Then she turned her focus back to me. "Melanie is family. She's been working herself to the bone to afford a home. And you, someone who's only been part of this family for 5 years, expect us to accept that you're hoarding money while she suffers." Michael didn't say a word. He stared blankly at his plate. That silence cut deeper than anything Miranda had thrown at me. "I understand your concern for your daughter," I said evenly, "but this is a private matter." "In this family, nothing is private," Miranda shouted, slamming her hand against the table. "Melanie has a right to that money. She's blood." I rose from my seat. "Excuse me, I need some air." As I stepped outside, I heard Miranda hiss under her breath to Michael, "Say something. She's your wife. Talk some sense into her." I took a deep breath and steadied myself with a memory of my grandfather's advice. Respect isn't begged for, it's earned. And wealth can't buy real love. Moments later, Michael came outside. "Isabella, wait." I cut him off. "Your silence spoke volumes." "She's my mother," he said quietly. "And I'm your wife," I replied. "But it's okay. Tomorrow, we're going to put an end to this." "What do you mean?" I turned to head back inside. "Tell Miranda and Melanie to be at my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll settle everything then." Miranda stood in the doorway with a smug smile. "I knew you'd come around." I gave her a small smile of my own. "Oh, Miranda, you really have no idea." The next morning, I arrived early. As CFO, my office is on the 20th floor, with wide windows overlooking the city skyline. Everything was in place. My assistant buzzed in. "Isabella, your husband, His mother and Melanie have arrived. Send them in. Miranda swept into the room first, dressed like she was headed to a film premiere. Melanie trailed behind her in a designer outfit I knew she couldn't afford. Michael looked uncomfortable, eyes darting around the room. Miranda looked around with thinly veiled disdain. So this is your little job? Cute. But Melanie could have something far more impressive. I didn't respond. Instead, I pressed a button on my desk. Anna, bring in the rest of our guests. Melanie frowned. Other guests? The door opened, and in walked Melissa and Madison, each with their husbands. Behind them was a sharply dressed man carrying a leather briefcase. Albert, Miranda's longtime family attorney. Miranda's face turned pale. Why is he here? I invited him, I said coolly. Please, everyone, have a seat. Then, I walked toward the window, ready for what came next. Before we get started, I said, there's something I'd like to share. We don't have time for stories, Miranda snapped. We're here to discuss your inheritance. Oh, but you'll want to hear this one, I replied smoothly. It dates back about 15 years. At that, Michael's father, Matthew, visibly tensed. 15 years ago, a man named Matthew Garcia entered into a rather noteworthy agreement, a contract for a $500,000 loan from my grandfather. That's a lie, Miranda shouted, shooting to her feet. Remaining perfectly calm, I opened a folder sitting on my desk and pulled out a document. This is the original loan contract, signed by Matthew. My grandfather kept it in his personal files along with a handwritten note. Melanie turned to her father, confused. Dad, is this true? Matthew kept his eyes down. It was a long time ago. Exactly, I said. Back when he was launching his construction company, my grandfather financed it under one condition, that it remain confidential. Why would you hide that from us? Madison asked, clearly shaken. Because Miranda insisted, I answered. She didn't want anyone knowing they had needed financial help, especially not from the family of a woman she already viewed as beneath them. Miranda slowly sank back into her chair, pale and silent. And that's not the end of it, I continued. The agreement included a clause. If the loan wasn't repaid within 10 years, my grandfather would acquire 40% ownership in the business. That's absurd. Miranda snapped. That company belongs to us. Albert, the family's lawyer, cleared his throat. If the paperwork is valid, the clause would be legally binding. It's very much valid, I said, sliding the contract toward him. And here's the kicker, there's no record of a single payment ever being made. Melissa was flipping through the documents rapidly. So, that means you own 40% of the company now. I smiled. Actually, try 60%. During a financial downturn 3 years ago, Matthew quietly sold additional shares to a holding firm, one controlled by my grandfather. The room fell into a stunned silence. Then I turned my attention to Melanie. You said you needed help buying a home. What happened to your trust fund? She blinked. What trust fund? The one your father set up for each of his daughters after the business started turning a profit. Melissa and Madison both received theirs when they turned 30. I held up another document. According to these financial records, yours was liquidated 2 years ago. By Miranda. Melanie's expression crumbled as she turned to her mother. Mom, what did you do? I just, Miranda stammered. She spent it, I said flatly. On that cosmetic surgery clinic in Miami. The one that filed for bankruptcy 6 months ago. Melissa and Madison stared at their mother, stunned, like they were seeing her clearly for the first time. Michael finally broke the silence. How did you even find all of this? I met his eyes. Because I'm damn good at what I do, Michael. After last night's ambush, I didn't break down. I got to work. I stayed up combing through records, contracts, filings, and what I found went deeper than I ever imagined. I turned back to Miranda. So tell me again, do you still think I should just hand over my inheritance to Melanie? Or would you rather discuss how you embezzled your own daughter's trust fund? Miranda shot up from her chair, trembling. I need some A. Oh no, I said, my voice cool as ice. We're not finished. She froze at the doorway. I pulled one last envelope from my desk drawer. Does anyone remember Paradise Gardens? I looked directly at Matthew. The biggest development project your company ever completed, I continued. Matthew slumped in his seat like the weight of the room had crushed him. Melissa turned to her father. Please tell us this isn't something else you kept from us. Paradise Gardens, I said, walking slowly back toward the table, was constructed on property that was obtained through fraudulent means. The original title records were forged. The rightful owners, they were never paid in full. Albert shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Those are serious claims, Isabella, he said. They are not claims, I replied, dropping a thick stack of printed emails and documents on the table. They are proof. And Albert, you were part of a cover-up. Melanie started to cry again, but this time, no one moved to comfort her. I'm bringing this to light, I continued, because Paradise Gardens currently accounts for 60% of your company's revenue. If the truth gets out, if the press or the authorities catch wind of this, it would collapse everything. You'd ruin us, Miranda cried. You'd destroy your own family. I let out a quiet laugh. Family? You mean the people who called me an outsider just last night? The same people who looked me in the eye and demanded I give up what my grandfather worked his entire life to build, as if you were owed something. I stayed directly at Melanie. Your mother burned through your $300,000 trust fund investing in a cosmetic surgery clinic in Miami. It folded 6 months after opening. And now you're here thinking you deserve my inheritance. I didn't know, Melanie whispered, eyes wide. Of course you didn't, I said coolly. You were too busy being the perfect daughter while she made every decision behind the curtain. I turned my attention to Michael. He'd been silent for far too long. And you? I asked. Anything to say? Isabella, No. Let me guess. She's my mother. That's always the line, isn't it? But here's a reminder, you were supposed to be my husband. Not her echo. Finally, Matthew spoke. His voice was strained, heavy with resignation. What do you want? I sat back down, my voice calm and deliberate. 3 things. First, Melanie gets her trust fund restored. Miranda's beach house should cover the amount. Miranda opened her mouth, ready to argue, but Matthew cut her off with a sharp glance that left her speechless. Second, I continued, I want uncontested ownership of a 60% stake in the company that's legally mine. I'll take over the management of Paradise Gardens personally and make sure the families who were cheated out of that land get the compensation they were denied. Melissa leaned forward, her voice gentler than before. And the third? I turned to Miranda, locking eyes. You stay out of my life. No legal threats. No sneaky tactics. No manipulating people behind the scenes. Try it once, and every file I've gathered goes straight to the district attorney. The room was utterly still. And if we refuse? Miranda asked, though the defeat was already in her voice. I smiled. Then I pressed send and let the DA sort it out. Your move. Matthew didn't hesitate. We accept. Matthew, Miranda gasped, but he raised his voice, stronger than I'd ever heard it. That's enough. You've done enough damage. For once in your life, face what you've caused. Miranda collapsed into her chair, silent. Perfect, I said, standing. Albert has the documents. Let's get them signed. As the others gathered around to initial and sign the papers, Michael stepped close to me. Isabella, I'm sorry. I should have defended you. I should have said something. I looked at him for a long, hard moment. Yes, you should have. He hesitated. Is there any chance you'll forgive me? Maybe, I said. But only if we get help, real help. And only if you stop being her son first and start acting like my husband. After the last signature, Melissa came over and hugged me. I'm sorry I didn't realize sooner. I returned the embrace. You were always the only one who treated me like I belonged. Madison apologized next. She admitted she'd always been too afraid of her mother to speak up. I nodded. I understood now. As the family trickled out of the room, Miranda paused at the door. You're really keeping a share of our company? No, Miranda, I said without hesitation. I'm saving it. The difference. I'll be doing it my way, not yours. That evening, Michael and I sat across from each other at dinner. We didn't speak. The silence between us was louder than any argument. Then my phone lit up. A scheduled message from months ago. Dear Bella, if you're reading this, it means you found the documents I left behind. I always knew this day would come. Remember, money is a tool, not the prize. Use it to build, to protect, and never to bend. Stay strong. I love you. Grandpa. A tear slipped down my cheek as I smiled. He had known all along. Michael watched me quietly. Are we going to be okay? I took a deep breath. That depends. If you can understand that love without respect is just an illusion, and loyalty has to be earned, not expected, maybe we will be. Because not every woman marries into silence. Some of us walk in with receipts, resolve, and the will to bind the whole system down if we have to.